Welcome back to another announcement video for the July distributions. A lot of you seem to want me to continue this as a monthly series, so here we go for the second month in a row. Again, don't forget to subscribe and to like the video so that you don't miss out on any future videos and updates. The goal is still to reach 5,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and we're officially halfway through 2026 now. With that, let's now get into the distribution announcements. Before we get into it, for context, all of this is being recorded on June 23rd after the market close. So starting off, we have Purpose Investments, and there looks to be one increase, one decrease, one new addition, and one ETF that was removed. For increases, we have CNQ, seeing a 21.4% raise from 14 cents to 17 cents. If I pull up the chart, we can see that on the 1 month, CNQ has dropped about negative 13.43%. That might be a bit confusing, because if the underlying stock dropped in price, shouldn't the distribution be decreased instead? Well, a part of that has to do with how it has also performed year to date, and if we look at that, even though it dropped 13.43% in the past month, the underlying stock is still up 25.21% so far on the year. If we add back that 13.43% drop, the stock was actually up 38.64% this year. So this, coupled with how Purpose tends to be a bit more strategic in their distribution raises rather than changing them every month, is why a raise like this can still happen. If I pull up dividend history and take a further look, this current raise is actually the first time they've increased the distributions for CNQY. So even though the underlying stock has performed very well so far, they waited until they were certain they could maintain this distribution for the foreseeable future before doing so. This is not to say they would never cut, but they tend to prioritize more stability in their distributions. And we can see that next in the one decrease they have for this month in YCON. Looking at the performance of Coinbase, we can see that on the 1 month it is down negative 14.49%, and then year to date, it is down negative 30.05%. This is a result of crypto falling out of favor, and with their core business focused around crypto trading, it means that the stock itself hasn't done well. So a decrease here isn't surprising, and is more or less expected as crypto continues to remain suppressed. Next, we have a new ETF that they launched shortly after the IPO of SpaceX about 2 weeks ago. An initial distribution wasn't announced until now, so here we finally get to see what the yield will start at for the first distribution. If I go to the ETF page, and then scroll down to the details where we get to see the current NAV and other information, we can then do some simple calculations. So here we'll have all the details we need to find out the current yield. By using the 50-cent distribution, we can multiply that by 12 months because the ETF pays out monthly. The resulting number here means we can expect to be paid $6 annually if it stays at 50 cents for the next 12 months. Taking the $6, if we divide it by the current NAV of $18.16, we can then get the distribution percentage. Multiply this by 100, and we have an approximate 33% initial distribution. While this isn't the highest yield, it is still quite high. It's also only the second week of trading, so it could change next month once the volatility finds its range. Going back to the distributions, we can see the next change is that the RPU ETF is no longer available. We can verify this with a news release from the fund page, and it looks to have closed already on June 9th. Next, we'll just go back and quickly scroll down the page for you to see the rest of the distributions that stayed the same this month. Then the next tab over will have the new distributions from Evolve ETFs. Here it looks like we have 4 decreases, but they're actually all in their cash or high interest savings ETFs, so there doesn't seem to be any changes to any of their covered call ETFs. We can scroll down to verify this, and even in their ultra yield ETFs, everything looks to be consistent, as Evolve tends to be with their distributions. That makes things easy, and we can scroll back up to move on to the next tab, which is for Harvest ETFs. There's not too much news here as well, it seems, with only HBIX seeing a 22.2% drop in the distribution. If you've been following Bitcoin, you'll know that it's been selling off, so a distribution cut here is probably expected. Otherwise, if we scroll down, everything else seems to have remained the same for distributions, including their 2 semi-monthly ones in HPYB and HPYE. So, going back up, we can move on to the Harvest High Income Shares tab, where we'll see a few more changes in distributions. For this month, it looks like it'll be 2 distribution increases, 5 decreases, and then 1 new ETF. The first one here is AMD, where there is a 26.7% increase in the distribution. Pulling up the chart and looking at AMD, in the 1 month it seems to have gone up 11.20%, and with the year to date being positive 142.74%. So context-wise, this seems to align well with what the underlying stock is doing. Then the next increase we have is in CrowdStrike, where it is getting a 10% increase in the distribution. Pulling up the chart for CrowdStrike, in the 1 month the underlying stock has gone up 2.63%, and year to date it has gone up 45.26%. This has been a rather quiet addition to HHIS at the start of the year when it launched, but so far it is the second best performing holding after AMDY, which is a good thing because as you can see on the chart, there's much more red than there is green. And that is a good segue to the next section on the table, which are all the decreases for the month. All of these here are basically Bitcoin or crypto related, so we can use the Bitcoin chart to see how it has performed this past month. In the 1 month, Bitcoin has dropped negative 18.80%, and year to date it has dropped negative 29.28%. So that is mostly why we see these here, with a decrease in their distributions this month. We can also go through these individually, starting with MSTR. On the 1 month, it has seen a 35.06% decline, with the year to date being negative 31.66%. Then, pulling up the chart for Coinbase, we can see on the 1 month it has gone down negative 14.49%, and year to date, it is down negative 30.05%. Lastly, we have Circle. This past month it has dropped negative 33.10%, while the year to date is negative 4.56%. So there's not much else that needs to be said, and the only thing that can bring these back up would be a Bitcoin and crypto recovery in the future. It's not uncommon for Bitcoin to experience this amount of volatility, so it's about just weathering the storm if you believe in the long-term trajectory over time. Moving on now to the new ETF, and that is SPXE. Similar to the Purpose one, we didn't get an initial distribution amount with the launch because of how new it is, but now we can finally see that it'll be a 30-cent initial distribution for this one. By going to the ETF page like before and scrolling down a bit, we get to the details section with all the information we need to calculate the yield. So like before, taking the initial distribution of 30 cents and multiplying it by 12 months, we get $3.60 for its annual distribution amount. Then dividing it by the current NAV of $11.69 and multiplying it by 100, we get a current yield of approximately 30.79%. So it looks like right now, both of these ETFs are targeting a very similar yield of about 30%, and it is just a matter of deciding which strategy you prefer between the two providers. Getting back to the distributions chart, we can scroll down so you can see the rest of the distributions that were unchanged, and that also includes all of the Canadian ones shown here at the bottom. Going up to the top again, we can move on to the Hamilton ETFs tab, and here we're going to see a whole slew of changes. This is normal for Hamilton, as they make small adjustments to all of their sector-based ETFs depending on their individual performances that month. So here we see that there are 21 increases this month, 3 decreases, and then only 7 that are unchanged. I'm not going to go over all of these as there is a lot, but the main ones I think many of us are most interested in would be HDIV and HYLD. Both of these have once again increased their distributions for the 3rd month in a row now, and I had to do a double take because it's not common for them to have this many raises in a row. The most we've seen is 2 months in a row, so this 3rd increase came to a surprise. For HDIV, it is a 1.1% raise, going from 19 cents to 19.2 cents. And for HYLD, it is a 1.3% raise, going from 16 cents to 16.2 cents. It might seem like a small increase, but for context, HDIV has actually only ever raised its distribution and has never cut it before. So from the inception distribution of 11.75 cents to the new distribution of 19.2 cents, that is a 63.4% increase over its lifetime. For HYLD, it has cut the distribution once in the past, but since then it has also only ever increased it. Doing the same as before, from the inception distribution of 13.75 cents to the new distribution of 16.2 cents, it is a 17.82% increase over its lifetime. Both of these have been and are still at their highest distribution amounts ever, so it is only good news for both of these ETFs. Scrolling down to see the rest of the distribution changes, we can also see at the bottom that all of the semi-monthly or day-max lineup of ETFs have also seen increases this month. For C-Day and Q-Day, this is also the third month in a row that they've increased their distributions. For S-Day, there was a pause last month, but this is the second time they've raised it in the last 3 months. These ones will vary over time depending on the market, so I don't expect these to keep going up and staying at these distribution amounts, but it's always nice to see an increase. Going back up to the top now, we'll get to the last tab with Global X's distributions. Here again, there isn't anything of interest as they are all treasury or cash ETFs, and nothing related to covered call ETFs. So essentially there are no changes here for this month, and I can scroll down so you can see them all for reference. At the bottom we'll also have the semi-monthly ETFs, which also have stayed steady in their distribution amounts. And with that, we finally reached the end of all the announcements. Let me know if this was helpful, and again, feel free to like and subscribe if you want me to continue making these again for next month. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.